What's up, dudes? Dudines. That was the original feminine form of dude.
Yeah.
Bet you guys didn't know that. I don't know why the hell I remember that. Anyway, what movie are we talking about?
So, today, we're talking about a movie called You Were Never Really Here.
So here's the thing about this movie. One of the people I really like on YouTube, Casey Cosley, link in the description, she did a review on this, and she is one of those people that I know that are bothered by graphic violence. So I basically just originally intended to watch this to see if it was as graphic as Upgrade, which was the first video that her and I talked about. And the answer is both yes and no. And it really is that complicated. I'm not making it up. It's yes and no. So what is this movie about?
So, it's about a traumatized veteran. He's unafraid of violence, and he tracks down missing girls for a living. He's hired by senators and other people, and
usually people with a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah. So he does that for a living, and he also suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. And so in the film, we get to see him reliving very painful moments. The line between reality and his own mental states
is often blurred, to say the least.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Joaquin Phoenix is in this movie, and he is phenomenal in it. I would say that I like the movie, except when people use the word like, that means they enjoyed it or had fun with it or something. And I did not have fun watching this movie.
No, this movie was terrible.
It was a good movie in that it was well made.
Yep.
And it effectively did what I think it intended to do. And we'll get into that.
Yep.
But to say that I enjoyed it would be lying to you, and I'm not going to lie. I like the film in that I respect what it does, because I think I got to the heart of the movie in a way that a lot of people would miss.
Yeah.
And then I made him watch it.
Yep.
Just so I wouldn't suffer through the nightmare alone.
Yeah. For me, it was very intense. You really get what type of mood this movie's going for based on the color of the film.
Look at you stealing my commentary.
But one of the most standout things that I picked up on was the sound design of this movie,
yes.
which is very disorienting, because not only are we talking about sound effects like, let's say, the character he plays, his name is Joe. Let's say Joe's taking a hammer and beating someone over the head with it. Or even the music is very unharmonious and will throw you off.
Yeah. There's a lot of discord in the music and in the sound design generally. He plays a veteran.
Yep.
Not unlike Denzel Washington in The Equalizer.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. This is not anything like The Equalizer.
Nope.
It's not an action movie. You read it, right? You read it on like IMDB, or maybe you read the one paragraph summary on Rotten Tomatoes, and you think it's an action movie. It's not.
No.
It doesn't even spend time trying to trick you into thinking it is an action movie. What I think this movie is an exploration of what it's like to have PTSD.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I think it is. So, with that in mind, the violence in the movie, when we think we're desensitized to violence, you're not. You are desensitized to a certain kind of stylized violence.
Mm-hmm.
That's not violence. The violence in Upgrade isn't real violence. Like, yeah, some of it was hard to watch, but I mean...
Yeah.
This movie isn't that gory. There's nothing really gory about it, but it is violent as hell.
Yeah.
And that's because I think it wants to disturb you. That's its goal, is to disturb you. So normally, when we have characters in films that have post-traumatic stress disorder, we have these expository, elaborate flashbacks.
Yep.
That's what we're used to. What this movie does, the flashbacks are very abrupt, they're very loud compared to the rest of the film, and they're very short, and they show you almost nothing about the dude's past. They are there to disorient you.
Yeah.
Because guess what? When people who have PTSD are experiencing a flashback, that's what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. I found myself having some experience with that shit, thinking, oh.
And it can come on all of a sudden, and that movie portrays it perfectly.
And the character Joe, which is the most generic name in the world.
Yep.
What's your name?
Oh, my name's Joey.
Yeah, and he had to put that so it sounds less generic.
Yeah.
And I think that was also intentional, because he could be anyone.
Yeah.
And to Joaquin Phoenix's credit, he looks like any dude in this movie. He does not look handsome. He's not dressed to the nines. He's not particularly ratty. He just looks kind of normal in most scenes. There are a couple scenes where he could look like someone you might think is a vagrant or a homeless person, if you prefer. Some people still use the word vagabond.
Yeah.
He looks like anybody you could pass by and not pay a second thought to.
Yeah. There's just also so much emotion in this movie, in my opinion.
There is a lot.
Through all the darkness, you get to see, because one of the PTSD flashbacks that you see is not only his wartime experience, but also his experience growing up.
Exactly.
And even then, we only get like
a small piece
snippets of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we only get like a tiny piece of it. Sometimes all you get is audio.
Yeah. Yep.
He borders on suicide, I should say, because I think part of it started as a coping mechanism. He hyperventilates when he's experiencing a PTSD flashback. He does.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. They have trigger a panic attack, so they try to slow your breathing. The movie almost opens with a scene with him having a plastic bag over his head, breathing into it, and you can't figure out whether or not he's trying to control his breathing or kill himself.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you the character doesn't know either.
Yeah.
He's like, whichever one happens first is fine with me.
Yeah, like you get the sense he really doesn't care if he lives or dies.
Yeah. It's not that he wants to end his life, he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he's kind of playing roulette with himself.
And the only, I guess, stable relationship for most of the movie is the relationship with his mother, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Which is an interesting way to look at it, because weirdly I would argue that the most stable relationship is probably with a girl he rescues.
Yeah, that too. There was a scene where his mother dies, or rather gets murdered by...
So, the dudes that take the girl that he's originally contracted to rescue are also experiencing conflict with her father, who happens to be a well-known senator who is trying to eventually achieve the presidency by kind of partnering up with the current governor of the state that he represents in order to gain more power. It turns out that he's really an asshat who is also involved in this child trafficking ring, and it's really disgusting.
Yeah.
But he kills himself. We don't know why.
Yeah.
But my read on it is that, like, he realizes that once all that shit goes to light, he's not going to be able to pretend to be his little girl's sweet dad.
Yeah.
And she's going to know exactly what he is.
Mm-hmm.
So he steps off a building and ends his life.
Yeah.
Right after Joaquin Phoenix's character recovers her, by the way.
Yeah.
So she goes from being in an underage brothel to being in a hotel room and finding out that her dad is now dead.
Yeah.
That's what kind of story it is, guys.
Yeah, it's pretty...
it's dark.
It's dark.
It's dark.
Yeah.
Another thing that the film does a really good job of highlighting is Joe's need for connection.
Yeah.
It's a very oddly human film with all this grotesque stuff going on.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily always show you the killing, but they do always show you the aftermath. And they don't stylize anything. There's one scene in there, Joe, you're only seeing what he's doing through the vantage point of a security camera that is located in the brothel that covers the entire hallway that he's in.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I was gonna say is that his mother gets murdered, and it's
Yes.
pretty brutal. Like, you get to see all the gruesome details. And the man who murdered her, Joe, manages to fatally wound him. And one of the things Joe asks this guy before he bleeds out and dies is, was she afraid? And then the man replies, she was asleep. Oh, something about that line was...
And the weird thing is,
Yeah.
there's this scene where Joe is laying down next to this dude on the kitchen
Yeah.
floor. And he takes the dude's hand and holds it until he's
Yeah,
dead.
I thought that was...
Honestly,
kinda-
I cried a little bit.
Yeah, because it just shows you how isolated this character is.
But then it's weird because with all the stuff that he does, I think he recognizes that even this guy who killed the only person that he's ever felt truly indebted to, bonded to, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah,
he sees him as still being human.
yeah. And I think that's one of the points this film tries to hit.
There is a scene in there that kind of reminded me of like a dark Inception near the end of the film, actually. It's where Joe's sitting in a cafe, the girl gets up to use the bathroom,
Yeah.
he pulls out a gun and shoots himself. Cut to the waitress kind of like looking in that direction. She looks a little weird, a little too happy, with blood on her face, and she's like, is there anything else I can do for you today, or something like that?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, what the?
Yeah.
And then you find out that it never happened. Like the girl wakes up Joe and is like, Joe,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful day outside.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, it is a beautiful day.
And
then the movie ends. I spoiled everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the film. Like, it's raw and intense, and it's gonna leave a mark on you.
The way I think about it is it's a way for people who have no idea what it's like for someone living with PTSD or even any kind of severe anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
To kind of get inside that place and understand something about it without dehumanizing the characters in the film.
Right.
That's how I take it. I'm probably not going to watch this movie again.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who's very sensitive to violence, but this movie kind of got to me. Hope you liked what we had to say. I would definitely recommend going to find this movie, because it came out in 2017. It won a couple of awards, it gained some notoriety. The woman who filmed it was hampered by some budgetary constraints, but I think she did a great job of using what she had to tell a very compelling story. And at the end of the day, it's a very human story.
Yeah, it's definitely worth at least one watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is a tremendous actor, and if you're ever on YouTube and you find my stupid ass, keep doing it, dude. By the way, he's gonna be the Joker.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout.
Yep.
And we'll see you at the movies.
Yep.